everyone. My guest for this episode is creative director and stylist Madison Albert. You can find her work and contact her on her Instagram at Style with Mads. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So, I mean, right now we were just talking about how you're still in Michigan, but you're planning to move to New York very soon. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what you've been up to?
Yeah, so I am a freelance stylist based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well,
Mhm.
technically, I live in a small town 30 minutes away from Michigan, but usually travel between Lansing and Grand Rapids. And I've just been spending my time working with clients, working on my business. I actually just opened it about a year ago. But yeah, I'm looking to move to New York in the coming months and start my career there and just move to a bigger city.
Right. So, like, when you start your business, you start as a personal wardrobe stylist?
Yes, so pretty much I have two kind of sides to my business. I love
Mhm.
to work on photo shoots, sets like that. I love styling for brands. Just being on set is like my favorite type of styling, but I also do a lot of like helping with my friends or clients that need help with their wardrobe,
Mhm.
kind of creating outfits out of their own current wardrobe. So I do a lot of personal styling and on set styling, kind of differs.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I was gonna ask. A lot of people like right off the bat they decide they want to do like editorial and you're like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not really gonna go into like personal styling, but yeah, that's what I was gonna ask if like you were into personal styling first. But that's what I was gonna say. How did you first get into like styling in the whole industry?
So I have always loved fashion. I think it's
Hmm.
a really fun way to express your personality, express yourself. And I thought there's not really a big market for it in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or in Michigan in general. Michigan's not really known for their fashion sense, or the West with Midwest. So
Hmm.
I was like, well, why not? So I actually saw a good feedback from it. So kind
Hmm.
of just started there. Originally went to school to become a physician's assistant and realized I was
Oh,
missing
okay.
my creative self. So then I dived into styling and fashion and it just kind of worked out. So I
All
kept
right.
pursuing it.
Yeah, that's so interesting how it was like physician's assistant. You're like, no, I'm
I
gonna
know.
go the other, like completely the other way and go into like a
Totally
creative
different.
career.
I did have a couple family members come up to me like after I decided to quit school
Hmm.
initially and pursue fashion that were just kind of like, oh, I wondered why you didn't go into a creative field. I thought you were very
Right.
into creative stuff and just pursuing kind of stuff. So it wasn't really surprising for a lot of people, but it was for others. I don't know.
Right, yeah, they were like, I was like, why did you start with this in the first place? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this like, how easy was it to find like a creative community in like Michigan or like Grand Rapids, where I see that you've done a lot of the shoots?
Yeah, it's a little hard, but pretty much the biggest thing is just networking and putting yourself out there. I've
Right.
used my social media as a good way to just put myself out there, and I just reach out to people all the time. I've started getting my name out there a lot in like Grand Rapids,
Hmm.
Michigan. So people reach out to me, they need personal styling services, or if they need someone for an editorial shoot. So really just pushing myself out there and people noticing that, oh wow, like this is styling. A lot of people did not know what I do or like what
Right.
styling is until I kind of put myself out there more.
Right. Yeah. Especially like I feel like in certain areas where, here you meet random people and you're like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a stylist. So you kind of have like overall like an idea of what people do. But I feel like in
Yeah.
different environments, it is kind of like, okay, but how do you make money? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
feel like styling's way more normalized in bigger cities like
Yeah.
New York. I've talked to people in Michigan where they're like, that's a job?
Yeah.
Like they had no idea. So it's kind of cool to be like, yeah, this is my job. This is what I do.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like also it's probably a lot easier for like once you move here, I guess that's probably why you decided you're like, oh, I'm moving to New York because a
Yes,
lot bigger
exactly.
market for that. But when did you like decide you're like, okay, I'm gonna make the jump. I'm moving to New York.
So I went to New York this past October
Hmm.
for a shoot with a friend. Obviously like COVID safe and stuff.
Hmm.
But when I was there, I was realizing I had a goal initially 5 years, I'm gonna move to New York City. And then I just realized I gotta do this. Like I
Right.
can't just keep waiting. And the reason I was putting it so far back in like 5 years, because I was like, oh, I need to be prepared for this, be prepared for this, and it's important to be prepared, but at the same time, like you just need to make the leap. And if it's for you,
Right.
it's for you. So after I got back from that trip from New York, I immediately put my apartment up to sublease. Immediately got someone else in it, stopped paying rent, moved home with my parents. So I'm currently living with my parents. So I've been living with my parents from October till now, just saving up money.
Right.
And I posted on Gypsy Housing, was like, I need a roommate. And so now I'm moving in March, just really pushing it up. So I'm just making the move.
So I see that that you recently had your first publication for, is it MOB or Mob Journal?
Mob
Mob
journal.
Journal. So congrats on that. I know that's probably very exciting.
Thank
His
you.
first
Yes, it
publication
was
ever
so
is really
exciting. It's
exciting.
actually my first editorial shoot ever too.
Oh really? Oh, that's cool. That it was like your first and you got published for your first. That's cool.
Yes, I know. It was very exciting the day I got the notification. I was like, yay.
So like tell us a little bit about that. Like how did you come across that opportunity and like building the team and everything?
Yeah, so actually I had someone reach out to me that was a friend of the model that I worked with, and she was like, "Hey, my friend needs a stylist. They're doing this big shoot." And I was like, "Oh yeah, send me her number." And I reached out to her. Her name's Navera, and she was so nice. And then I got to meet the photographer. She pretty much had a whole team set up, so
Right.
she was pretty much her and the photographer with the creative director. And they reached out to me, and then we just kind of got to know each other, had a fitting, and it worked out really well. And then we just scheduled a date to have the shoot. But that's kind of where I go from. Having my social media is so good for networking and reaching out to
Hmm.
people and for people to reach out to me. So yeah, just through a friend of a friend, really.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel like a lot of people when they're just starting out, they're scared to make the jump into editorial because they think
Mhm,
that maybe they need to go through like agencies, they need to like,
mhm.
talk to like agents. Like, no, you could just go on Instagram and be like, hey, do you want to shoot? And maybe, you'll get the
That's the
chance to
thing.
like submit it somewhere. But yeah, I feel like as you said, just with social media, it's really easy to like come in contact with other people.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I feel like it's very scary, but you just
Mhm.
kind of have to push yourself into that scariness because you never know what might happen. I got a publication out of it and it's just the beginning.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I feel like once you have that one publication under, it's like, oh, you have, something really strong in your portfolio, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
look, I've already been published. Like, please, like, like I'm. This is not the
Mhm.
first time. I know how this works. So yeah, I feel like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, congrats on that. That's really cool that
Thank
you
you
like,
so much.
you're not even in the city yet, and you already have something like,
Thank you so
under your
much.
belt.
Yeah, it's definitely a confidence booster and like that I'm ready to go. So
Right. Yeah. So like as you said, I saw on your Instagram that earlier in 2020 that you came here for like a couple shoots, and you said that it was one of your friends. I was gonna ask you like, how did you come into contact with like the people that you worked with?
yeah, so I have a girl named Bianca. Her Instagram is simply female. She runs a female empowering community on
Mhm.
Instagram, and she randomly posted one day about how she would like to shoot. She's a photographer for a
Mhm.
company called Carbon Stories as well. And she randomly posted on Instagram, "Does anybody want to shoot?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I'll be a model." Shooting and being a model is like a little out of my comfort zone, so I was like, "No, why don't I just try this?" She lives in the Grand Rapids area as well, so it
Oh,
was
okay.
super easy to meet up. We met up, and she loves New York City as well, and she was going, and she was like, "Why don't you come with us? We'll have a little fun shoot, get some
Right.
models." And I was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
So I randomly got a flight out there and it worked out. So really just networking on Instagram again and just having that connection about New York together.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, oh, cool. She doesn't even live here, and she's already like, she knows people that here. That was just gonna ask, like, how did you come into contact with those people, and like, yeah, like overall, how does someone maybe that lives in an area that maybe doesn't have as big as an industry, find other creatives?
Yeah, and I think it's really you just need to reach out to people. You can't
Right.
be scared to reach out to people and put yourself out there. You're gonna get rejected, but that's just all what it's all about. You
Right.
just keep putting yourself out there and you might meet some of the right people and you might not, but you'll
Right.
find
Like
people.
you'll get something out of it. Either you'll learn like who not to like work with or like better ways to like communicate with people, or you will end up getting like a shoot together. But
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. It's all just really about putting, especially in Michigan, like I said, there's not many people around here, so you just have to put yourself out there.
Right, exactly. So like when you were like I assume that you probably already started networking with people in the city, right?
Yes, I have.
Yes. Like how have you gone about that? Like finding people even though you're not like, able to like personally meet them yet.
Yeah, so through Bianca from that shoot,
Mhm.
she introduced me to a couple people that already live in the city, like
Okay.
music artists, just
Mhm.
content creators, people like that. And since then, I've reached out to them, asked them if they have any friends in the city that are into fashion, into content creating, into or any photographers, things like that. I also have been just using like hashtags on Instagram, honestly, and finding New York City photographers, reaching out to them like, "Hey, I'll be in the city by these dates, moving there. I would love to work with you. Love to even meet up, COVID safe,
Right.
obviously, and then kind of proceed from there. And so far, it's been really good, and I've had a lot of luck. So I'm excited for when I get in the city, I'll be able to reach out to these photographers I did to a month ago and meet up with them, and maybe have a photo shoot set up. So
Right. Yeah. I also noticed that during this time, you think that people won't be shooting that much because you think that, but it's like, since a lot of people lost their jobs, especially like in the fashion
Oh yeah.
industry, with like retail just entirely shutting down for months. So I feel like it gave people like a lot of time to like work more on their portfolios or like work on something creative.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot of really cool work come out of like these few months. So I'm glad that people were
I
able
have
to find like
two.
an outlet instead of just like being like, oh, damn, I got laid off. What do I do? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, it's really lucky because I work from home. I work for
Hmm.
myself on the side. I work for my dad as well. But I feel like you're right. A lot of people during this COVID time have really honed into like their creative side and
Yeah.
like pushing their creativeness. I feel like it's such an outlet, especially with staying at home and not having anything to do or just kind of being a little more down. Obviously, there's been a lot of more depression,
Hmm.
all of that. So, going into that creative side, so it's just like it really is like therapy.
Yeah, no, it's like it also, like I've been very bored at home because I'm still go to school. So it's like when there's no school, I'm like, what do I do now? Like, okay, I already did the podcast yesterday. Like, what do I do now? So I just took up sewing too. Like I'm learning how to sew and like
Oh, I need
I
to
never
do
wanted
that.
to. Yeah.
I just got my first sewing kit.
Oh,
So,
really? Yeah, no, I bought like since when I started, I go to FIT, so it's kind of like I felt like I needed to learn how to sew, but I'm not like I don't go for design, I go for business, but I was like I need to learn because I feel like it's a good skill to have even
oh,
if you're
yeah,
not
it's
like
like
in
it's a
fashion.
lifelong skill.
Yeah, no, like my mom knows how to sew, but she's not like in fashion. She just knows how to sew because just it's a
Cool.
good skill to have, and she's like teaching me, and it's like, oh yeah, this is I and now I just do it for fun.
Was it easy for you to learn?
Because I guess it is. It's like she's teaching me like the very, very basics of like, oh, this is how you sew a skirt, this is how you fix this, or like you can make like little like makeup pouches and stuff. So that's
That's
just what
so
I'm doing.
cool.
But
I
it's
see
like,
on Oh, what were you saying?
oh
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's just like it's very basic things to just kind of like entertain yourself. Like I learned how to
Oh,
make
yeah.
scrunchies and then like,
People make whole businesses out of that too.
yeah,
My
I'm trying to
friend
like sell my scrunchies because I made like
had-
a lot of them.
Oh my gosh, if I had hair, I would buy all of them.
They're like this big, and I was like, I'm gonna make them really big because I think they look
Oh,
cool when they're like
cute.
giant. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love like the silk ones too. I used to have the silk
Yeah, the
ones.
sick ones are so nice. I saw there's this page that sells like really really nice scrunchies. I think it's called the Room Shop, and they use like dead stock
Oh,
fabric to make
cool.
them, and they're really cool. I like them.
Oh, that's so nice. It's such
Yeah,
an eco-friendly way to really make some
yeah,
cool things.
yeah. That's what I was gonna bring up.
But that's
You
cool.
were really into like oh so yeah. Sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. I
Oh
was
no.
just gonna say I just actually enrolled in the first class at FIT as well.
Oh really? Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I like FIT because it's affordable compared to like the other fashion schools out there.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna go to like I wanted to go to Parsons until I saw how much Parsons cost, and I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to Parsons. Yeah,
I looked at Parsons first too, and I was
yeah,
like, oops.
yeah,
No, thank you. Especially being like out of state.
yeah. And it's like respectfully to the people that go to Parsons, I would rather go to FIT.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
but no, FIT is pretty cool. I like FIT. But yeah, it's also like I'm really into sustainability too. That's actually like my minor in college.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Like I see that you post a lot of like sustainability tips. So like where did your sort of like interest in like learning about sustainability and like, being more sustainable come from?
To be honest, I'm not really sure where it came from. I feel like I just started when I was younger. I definitely started when I was younger. I started reading like
Hmm.
articles about, like how the shape of our planet,
Hmm.
all of the destruction from global warming, everything. That kind of really got me thinking about how can we make the fashion industry more sustainable, especially the fashion industry is one of the most polluting industries. So how can we make it better and more ethical for the people who are
Right.
making our garments and for the people who are wearing them too? Just all around having a more sustainable industry. But really, I don't know where it came from. I just think I just picked it up one day.
Hmm.
My parents are very big into it too, about recycling, all that
Right.
good stuff. So it just kind of happened one day. And I loved reading about it because it's our home and I love there. So
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely like yeah, like a lot of people don't, but we're like the second industry, like after the fossil fuel industry. So
yeah.
that's a little like, are you guys aware that we're like, doing really and we're doing really bad still. Like I feel like people haven't picked up on it enough to realize
No.
that it's actually affecting in a really big way. But yeah, that's what I want to talk to you about because I don't meet a lot of like, especially stylists. I feel like there's a lot more designers who take into account like the sustainability aspect
Mhm.
of the industry, but stylists not as much. But yeah, I thought it was really cool that you post like content about like sustainability, and that you have like these little posts where you like explain certain things. And I think that's a really good way to like spread
Thank you.
things in a way that people can absorb it better. Because if you read
Mhm.
like a scientific article, it's kind of like I picked up nothing from this. But if
Oh,
you
I
read
think
it
it's so
like,
confusing sometimes.
yeah, like if you pick up like if you read it from a post, it's a lot easier to like
Oh
grasp
yeah.
and comprehend, especially if you kind of like if this is not something that you're super into. If you just
Hmm.
see like a little infographic, you're like, oh wow, I didn't know this, and then you kind of remember it. So
Exactly. And like my main goal about it is just at least if I can impact one person about sustainability and maybe making smarter fashion choices, then that's all I really care. I
right.
incorporate a lot of like thrifting and sustainable pieces actually into my styling. Like for example, Mom magazine, when we got published, every single outfit or every single piece from down to jewelry and clothing was thrifted in that
Mhm.
editorial, that publication, which was super exciting for me because I want to, as I grow in the fashion industry, promote sustainability and ethical clothing. And buying secondhand, you can still
Right.
find really cool pieces on or renting clothes instead of always buying clothes.
Mhm.
But even a lot of my friends, as I talk to them about sustainability and how to make better fashion choices, they've started to, and it's really cool to see that impact just from me explaining it and then them practicing those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like as people in the industry who we sort of know about this sort of thing, I just feel like it's an obligation, not like an obligation, but it is something that we should think about often. That you the people that are gonna affect the most is like the people you know personally and like your
Hmm.
friends. So like if you tell your friends about it and then your friends tell their friends about it and then it keeps
Exactly.
going, that's like the best way to do it.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
if it's like such a on such a personal level, like, oh, maybe we should like not do that and maybe we should do this instead. You kind of like, oh,
Exactly.
maybe, yeah, you're right. So yeah, I feel like
Especially,
it's probably like the best way to do it. And also I saw that you have a Depop account, and
yeah.
it's like a really big thing right now that maybe a lot of people don't know. I feel like it's a very like Gen Z millennial thing to do, to
I
like
totally
do these
agree.
things, to like have Depops, have like I have Poshmark. I sell a lot of things on Poshmark actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I couldn't. I used to have a Poshmark, but I don't like that how much money Poshmark takes from you.
It takes way too much money. It
Even
really does. It takes
Depop, Depop only
yeah.
takes like $1 or $2 from you every purchase.
Yeah, the only thing about Depop that I've had like a hard time with is that like you have to make your pictures like really really nice.
Mine are mine are like not that nice. That's something I need to work on. I don't pay enough attention to it. I just am like,
I've seen
okay, take
people
the picture.
post like their Depop listing. I'm like, I have like my crooked picture of like a dress, and then I see like the girl that did like a photo shoot in the park, and I'm like, no one's gonna buy my skirt. So then like I just went to like Poshmark and I saw all my stuff there. But Poshmark is good. It
Thank
does
you.
take a lot of money from like it takes a big
Mhm.
chunk of like what you sell, but I just think the amount of like websites that we have now to like resell clothes and
Oh
like buy
yeah.
new one is just insane. Like I think the IPO for Poshmark just went up like last week. Like it just went on like the market, so they're selling like stock for Poshmark now. And I
Oh
think
wow.
yeah, the day it went up was like it increased, like it doubled or something like that. Like the
So cool.
day it went on sale. So I think it's cool to see how like these brands are like growing, and that it means that there really is a market for like
Oh yeah.
secondhand clothes and like reselling, because it really is sustainable. Like you can say whatever you want, like, oh no, because you really need to wear the clothes a certain amount of times for it to like be worth
Hmm.
it. Yeah, but we still have pieces from like the 80s, the 70s around, so it
Oh,
means that it's
exactly.
worth it. If
It is.
we're able to save these like pair of jeans from the 70s and it's still being used today, then it's definitely worth it.
Oh yeah, and this is like the first year, and I don't know if you look at it, I don't have like a graph or anything, that
Hmm.
this is the first year that like secondhand shopping has just like blown up too. Like
Yeah.
you can see that, and it's crazy, and it's only going to keep getting bigger in the future with
Yeah.
apps like these, like Poshmark and Depop.
Yeah, and it's like I think it's good because I feel like luxury kind like especially luxury, they've kind of really realized that like this is kind of the future in a way, because now they're
Yeah.
investing in like they're trying to recover their pieces from like the 80s and 70s. Like some brands
Mhm.
are paying people like, do you have a Louis Vuitton from like the 90s? I'll buy it off of you. And then
Yeah.
people selling them on their own. So I think it's kind of making brands more conscious of like, oh, I think they want us to do this. Let's do it just so like
Exactly.
obviously it's with like profit in mind, but as long as as
Yeah,
long as it's
exactly.
working, yeah. What is something you wish you knew before you decided to become a stylist?
I guess I would wish to know that the fashion industry is like super hard and super I don't know. I wish I knew like there wasn't such like a stigma around the fashion industry and how it's supposed to be portrayed and how fashion is supposed to look.
Mhm.
What something about my brand that I'm really trying to emphasize is that like fashion can really be anything you want it to look like. It's however you want to express yourself. And that's really not how the fashion industry is built. It's kind of favored toward, like the smaller, skinnier body type,
Mhm.
looking a certain way, dressing a certain way, but really just normalizing that you can dress however you want. And, I've struggled with that too because my fashion is very different than like most people's. I really try to express having a personal style. So getting that out there is very difficult. And also, just being able to connect with people. It's really on me as an entrepreneur. So that kind of goes with like being an entrepreneur. You have to do everything yourself for your own business.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of different things I wish I would have known. Kind of trying to think about it, but
Right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times what you said was like what types of people and bodies of favors, you don't really realize it until you start asking for samples and then you see the samples and it's like, interesting. Yeah.
exactly. And like different models and just really trying to diversify all of it. So, oh,
Yeah.
also, I guess I wish I would have known, it goes back to sustainability, how horrible the fashion industry is kind of and how deep it
Right.
goes. I didn't realize that until really diving into it. And I remember the first time someone mentioned fast fashion to me, I like literally feel like I got punched in the face because I've always loved fashion.
Yeah.
I was like, you're telling me that I'm buying cheap clothing, it's hurting the planet and it's hurting other people. I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't know this. I was like, I didn't know this.
Yeah, and
So
then it's also so complex because it's also like, yeah, fast fashion is bad, but then we're not really creating a supply chain that will make like better quality clothing affordable to people
exactly.
because we focus a lot on like the markup and like making things like, like with fake luxury in a way.
Yeah.
So like that certain types of people aren't able to afford and all they can afford is like
Oh,
fast fashion,
exactly.
but then we
It's
blame
definitely
them, but it's kind of like, but whose fault really is it in a way?
no, you're so right because like even shopping sustainable is like if you have the means to shop sustainable, you totally should. But if you can't, like, you can't,
Right.
sustainable fashion should be more accessible. And it's not because a lot of people can only afford, fast fashion. And you should buy fast fashion. That's just what's wrong with our industry and the way things are made. But, like I thrift a lot, but a lot of people don't have time thrifting. Thrifting very time consuming and people don't have time for that. But if you go to like a sustainable brand such as like Reformation, I'm not buying $200 dress,
Right.
but I think it's just the thing that it's been normalized for so long that clothing from Forever 21 is $4 and that's okay when it's not.
Right. No, yeah, and then I feel like they actively try to make the supply chain hard to convert, if that makes sense. Like they're not trying to like find
No.
alternatives. They're like, no, because it's working, we're just gonna keep doing it this way. But it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna get to a point where once we realize we can't turn back, we're not gonna be able to. And then we're not
Exactly.
going to be able to do anything about it. But it's really like they're putting the blame on the wrong person, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's just the industry's issue. That's something that they need to fix.
So what are 5 tips for someone who wants to be a stylist?
Oh, 5 tips. One, you need to believe in yourself. I feel like the fashion industry is very intimidating. It was very intimidating for me to get into it, and sometimes I still have a little like struggle with it. But I just have to remind myself, like, oh no, you got this. Like, you can do it.
Right.
Like, you have good fashion taste. You know what you're doing. So really, just believe in yourself and having a hardworking skill trait because you are really just like any other entrepreneur. Especially if you start as a freelance stylist, you need to work hard to put yourself out there. Create a profile and market yourself correctly and build a good networking list. So that's really important. Believe in yourself and just putting yourself out there. Two, I guess it's kind of those two, just making a networking list and really putting yourself out there. Three, having a good, unique sense of style and not being scared to really play with your style. I guess you don't really have to have a unique sense of style when starting out, but you need to be extremely open-minded when it comes to fashion
Right.
because you never know what looks good or what trend might be coming next. Or if, even sometimes I just like sit in my closet and I'll randomly start throwing clothes together, like, oh, this could look really good together. And I would have never thought about this.
Hmm.
So just being open-minded, extremely with fashion. Um, Four, I would say if you have a vision, you need to go for it. So it's really about owning in yourself, like going in, saying same thing as believing yourself, just owning in your vision. And if you have it, go for it. because a lot of people are not going to have the same vision as you, and it could be something really great. Like for when I got published for Mob, we went for like a 70s, 60s, I don't know, kind of vintage theme. And the way I put the looks together was my vision. So really just hone in and trust your vision. And 5, just do your thing and be open to expect everything. Oh, 5 tips for being a stylist. Definitely be okay and open to having like lags in your services. Like some weeks you're gonna get clients, some weeks you're not. It's just that type of service being a freelancer.
Right. So
So
it's
it's kind of all over the place, but
no, yeah, just sort of like being prepared for what you might have to do, and that you
exactly.
should have to be open to like changing things around.
Exactly. If you're having a lag week where you don't really have any clients, work harder that weekend. So you might have to work on the weekends. But I feel like that goes for a lot of freelancers and entrepreneurs too. Like you just have to work hard and
Right.
get what you want, put yourself out there and believe in yourself.
Right, exactly. You can check out her work and contact her on Instagram at Style with Matt. So thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure and it's so nice meeting you.